Now that you have your resume content and format looking great, it's time to optimize it for online applications, which are used by a majority of large and medium-sized employers these days. You want to find a balance between optimizing your resume to get past applicant tracking databases, but also making it look appealing for when a recruiter or hiring manager reviews it. We are going to review common questions applicants ask when preparing their resumes for online submissions. It's important to start each bullet point with a strong action verb. Powerful action verbs and carefully selected wording can make a huge difference to dynamically exhibit your skill set, especially if you are targeting a certain area. As recruiters skim your resume, they may catch only the first word of every bullet, so you want to use terminology that can tell more about you in just one word. This slide shows many action verbs that help convey organizational, research, and teaching skills. Verbs like streamlined, executed, investigated, motivated, and facilitated are very strong action verbs. Without reading the rest of the bullet point, the recruiter can deduce you possess those skills. Here we have action verbs that can relay communication and people skills, creative and leadership skills, and data and financial skills. This is not an exhaustive list of action verbs to include on your resume or all of the skills you may want to highlight, but it demonstrates how to utilize words to convey skill sets. You can visit the Career Services website's resume section for a long list of strong action words. Always make sure that the tense makes sense. If you are currently in a role, it's okay to list it in present tense. If you are referring to a previous experience, you must use the past tense. It's okay if these vary by section or even within a section, because it's possible you worked on a project in a current job that has been completed, in which case it would be appropriate to use the past tense. Several phrases should be avoided, such as assisted with, participated in, and worked on, which are too vague and don't give the recruiter enough information. We also recommend avoiding the phrase responsibilities included, as it's redundant since the purpose of your resume is to list your responsibilities and job duties. When you only have one page to communicate your skills and value, avoid wasting space on words that don't contribute much meaning. Just like when writing a paper, it is also important to know your audience when writing your resume. By tailoring your resume so that it really speaks to the recruiter, you will likely experience more success than applying with a standard resume. There are several ways you can tailor your resume to make it stand out. A targeted resume is written to highlight the skills and experiences that are significantly relevant to a job or internship in a particular field. You can often change the header to reflect this. As you can see in this example, the header says marketing and related experience. This would be in place of work experience or professional experience you may see on a resume that is not tailored for a specific field. Second, it's important to focus on skills and attributes the company is seeking. You may also want to move around the order of your bullet points or focus specifically on the skills and attributes a company says they are seeking. This not only makes you a good candidate for the job, but it tells the recruiter you are taking the time to think analytically about what they need in a top candidate. Lastly, perhaps most importantly, use keywords or buzzwords from the job description. It's important to use keywords for a variety of reasons. Not only will you be speaking the recruiter's language by including actual words from the job description, but there is often a technological benefit as well, which will be covered in the section Optimizing Your Resume for Online Applications. As you will learn, it's more and more common for hiring managers to use applicant tracking systems, which are databases that store your resume once you apply, and then the system uses algorithms to determine which applicant may be the best fit. Having the right keywords from the job description will increase your chances of your resume being seen by an actual human. This also reinforces the importance of networking, and you can watch our other networking module for information on that. To recap, let's talk about and review some general best practices. A resume should typically be 1 page in length. On average, recruiters spend about 6 seconds looking at the resume initially. They will spend more time on it once you make it to the yes pile. Keeping it succinct and efficient will be in your best interest. Once you have several years of work experience, it may make sense to fill 2 pages. But generally speaking, current students and new alumni should stick to 1 page. That said, be selective with what you include, since you won't want your resume to appear too crowded. Sometimes less is more. That said, you do want your resume to be as skimmable and readable as possible, so keeping the font size no smaller than 10 points and the margins at least half an inch is important. You should have no spelling mistakes or typo, so double and triple check your resume and consider having a friend or family member read it to look for errors. This is a document you will spend many hours reviewing and will get used to, maybe even tired of looking at, so eventually it could be easy to miss mistakes. In a resume, consistency is key. Hiring managers want to see a consistent formatting structure. If you italicize your job title for one experience listed, did you do that throughout? You can choose to use punctuation or not to use it, but be consistent throughout. This holds true for all formatting, such as bolding, underlining, etc. If you are applying online, beware of applicant tracking systems and some of the tips and tricks we highlighted to optimize your application. We'll cover ATS best practices in another part of this module. There are also many things you should avoid in order to have an attractive resume. Don't be redundant. Again, space on just one page is valuable, so make sure every word you include has meaning and adds value. You should avoid including information that is from long ago, unless, of course, it's super relevant. However, don't feel that just because you are in college, everything from high school no longer counts. If you are in a master's program, don't feel that you can't mention some of your successes from undergrad. If it's relevant, feel free to include it. Just use your judgment as to what is dated or redundant. Beware of overinflating your proficiency levels. If you are pretty good at Spanish but wouldn't be able to break into conversation in the language during an interview, don't say that you are fluent, as you may find yourself in an uncomfortable situation. You also shouldn't include references on your resume. If an employer requests them up front, include them on a separate sheet. There is also no need to include an objective on your resume, as it can be redundant with your cover letter. You will want to make sure you give your resume a professional file name when saving it on your computer, in case it is visible to an employer in the application. We often say there is no I in resume. This means you should avoid using personal pronouns such as I or my. You should also avoid using articles when possible, a, an, or the. For instance, instead of saying, I managed a team of 6 staff members, you would instead say, managed a team of 6 staff members. This saves space and helps to create a succinct, skimmable resume. Lastly, if applying in the United States, you should not put any information on your resume that could put you at risk of discrimination. Don't include a photo, date of birth, or gender information. As you continue on in this module, refer back to these checklists at any time to help keep your resume healthy.